The European Le Mans Series makes yet another trip here to the Styrian Mountains, to Spielberg in Austria and to the Red Bull Ring for round 3 of what has already proved to be a very exciting 2017 championship. It's the 4 hours of Red Bull Ring for this year. The race takes place tomorrow, but first of all we have 3 bouts of qualifying to get through for our 3 different classes. That's LMGTE, the cars that are about to work their way out onto the Red Bull Ring asphalt. We also have a qualifying session for the LMP3 cars, a mixture of Ligier and Norma machines powered by 5-litre Nissan engines. And then the top class, the LMP2s, of which there are 13 cars here this weekend. And all of those classes only get 10 minutes each. That's from when the red light is extinguished at the end of the pit lane through to when the checkered flag comes out. Of course, if you already started a quick lap, though, when that flag comes out, you will be permitted to finish it. It's a very quick change around between each of the sessions as well. We have 10 minutes on, 10 minutes off, effectively. But 10 minutes around this place will disappear very quickly, despite it being one of the shorter circuits we visit. 4.318 kilometres, that's 2.6 miles. It's got 9 turns, and they started racing here when it was the Österreichring in 1969. There was a little spell when the circuit was out of action. It came back into being as the A1 ring, you may remember, and now known as the Red Bull Ring, with the Leaping Bull partway up the hillside, one of the many iconic elements of this track. My name's Johnny Palmer. Thank you for joining our European Le Mans Series qualifying. And Graham Goodwin of dailysportscar.com is sitting to my right, and we're raring to go, are we not, Graham, for 6 cars initially. So it's going to be a relatively quiet start, although the times will come in very early on. LMP3 was particularly special at Monza, and I think we're in for a treat once again here in Austria too.
Absolutely, Johnny. Good afternoon, everybody. It's indeed another high-quality grid. 6 cars will go out this GTE session. It'll be the 2 Aston Martins, TF Sport, who lead the championship, by the way. It's been a while since we raced for the European Le Mans Series back in Monza, back in May. The Beach DNMR car, the defending champions, of course, in the European Le Mans Series, the number 99 car. Second place in the championship, the Le Mans winning GTM car, JMW Motorsport, but it's not the same car that took the race win in Monza last time out, because the old lady, the 458, has now been put into Jim McWhirter's private collection and replaced with this brand spanking new Ferrari 488 GTE. That car sits second in the point standings, 35 points for JMW, Beachdene on a third. Then we get the number 77 Proton Porsche. We're looking at that car just a few moments ago, with behind them the 2 Spirit of Race cars, the 51 car, this gorgeous red Ferrari, and the dark green and white car, the Duncan Cameron-owned car, the 55 car, sits at the moment 6th out of the 6 full-season entries. The 2 Aston Martins, one with an essential component required for qualifying, the other without at the moment. The Dunlop's already aboard the number 90 car, just about to go on the 99. Beautiful weather. It is scorching hot here. And I know Charlie George down in the pit lane is going to have quite an afternoon on our hands, with racing still to come. And
a 39% chance of some rainfall. Eduardo Freitas telling the drivers that there will be 30 seconds before the session gets underway at exactly 1:45 Central European time. But yes, it's that sort of weather that we have at the moment, which is very, very warm, very kind of close atmosphere, quite a bit of humidity.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pit exit is open. Qualifying for LMGTE has started. Be advised, we will be monitoring track limits.
And that's something we saw a little earlier on today as part of the Michelin Le Mans Cup qualifying session. Track limits certainly being pushed to their limit and beyond at times, out of turn 1 and out of turn 9, the Red Bull Mobile corner. Generally, that is it. Sometimes cars run a touch wide into 4 as well, the first of the left-handers, although I know some championships count the little kink on the run-up from 1 to 2 as a corner as well, and actually count Rima's corner as turn 3. I'll leave that hanging in the air. But yes, with the humidity that we have, there's always the chance that the weather will break, and it did that big style Thursday night with a very dramatic electrical storm and it lasted for a good half an hour to 45 minutes with flashes of fork lightning nearby. We are expecting thunderstorms tomorrow throughout the course of the day, which promises to make the European Le Mans Series race very, very interesting, and strategy will be key. Also, there'll be quite a bit of luck involved, I think, as to where you are on your pit stop cycle, where you are through your stint lengths, and whether it's suitable to pit or not, and what tyres it's best to be on at any one moment.
So already a minute and a half into this session, all 6 cars are out on the track. The last to the track, Johnny Cocker, emerging, being given a second race of the season aboard the JMW Ferrari. But what a high quality quintet beyond that even that we've got. Andrea Bertolini, long-time Ferrari and Maserati factory driver, is out in the 51 car. Matt Griffin, the current championship leader in GTM in the AFI WEC with Clearwater Racing, is aboard the 55. Matteo Caroli, the race winner last time out to the Nürburgring just last weekend in the WEC, with another of the Proton competition enter Porsches. Matteo Caroli, a Porsche Junior driver, set for great things, I think, young Matteo. Nicky Thiem, the reigning FIWC Drivers GTE champion with Aston Martin Racing, here with TF Sport. Double championship winners last year, of course, with the British GT Championship and the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup as it was then. And Darren Turner, the Le Mans winning GTE driver this year for Aston Martin Racing. He's here as part of the Beach Team AMR squad. That is Darren there aboard the number 99 car, the defending champions in GTE in the European Le Mans Series. It's game on.
And Nicky Thiem already with a title to his name this weekend, because as part of the Welcome Centre here at the Red Bull Ring, there is a scaled down version, a scale-electric version of the Red Bull Ring. And last night, after the main track action on Friday, there was held the first ever, to my knowledge, 4 hours of the Red Bull Ring. We did a 4 minutes of the Red Bull Ring. Philippe Albuquerque, Martin Hipper and Nicky Thiem, all part of that. And Thiem, funnily enough, driving a Porsche, a former Porsche Super Cup champion, of course, he managed to win the race. They got a very smart trophy and a souvenir bag as well. So
we're still awaiting, though. There was a technical process post-race from Philippe Albuquerque.
Is there?
Complaining about some electronic issues.
Has he put in a protest?
I think there is a formal protest. Wilder Freitas not impressed about that at all, and removed all coffee and biscuits from the circuit cafe.
Well, well, well. The only place, that scale electric track, where track limits can be solved with one of those metre-long grabbers, which basically makes the car be put onto the track very, very quickly, like your old train set derailing. Anyway, back to the real action.
Already getting into fast lap times. Nicky Thiem currently leads the way. It's a 1:29.298. It's an Aston Martin 1-2 just momentarily before Andrea Bertolini puts in a 1:29.206. The 51 Spirit of Race Ferrari. This car leads the way at the moment in the early standings, but just under a tenth of a second clear of Nicky Thiem in the 90 TF Sport car. So 1:29.206 plays 1:29.298. Then Darren Turner, quarter of a second back in the Beechstein car, the 99 car, with Matteo Caroli in the 1:30s at the moment, and just over a full second off the pole position. Johnny Cocker pops up just above that. This is going to be a tight session, Johnny.
I think you're quite right. Andrea Bertolini is a master in these cars, sharing with Giorgio Roda and Gianluca Roda, who are silver and bronze respectively. But Bertolini, the platinum driver, former Maserati Works driver and Ferrari Works driver now, is topping the times, although Nicky Thiem goes through to do a 1:29.067, and to slot between Thiem and Bertolini in the early stages, DT, Darren Turner in the 99 Aston.
We're watching the second flying lap for Matt Griffin. He did actually go to provisional pole to dock that lap by Eduardo Freitas for track limits, but he does it this time into the 1:28, 1:28.763, 64 thousandths of a second clear of Matteo Caroli now, who goes to the top. So both those men, Matt Griffin in the 55 Ferrari, Matteo Caroli in the 77 Porsche, under 1:29, and less than a tenth of a second between those two, with a quarter of a second back before we get into the first Aston Martins. Nicky Thiem, then Darren Turner. Andrea Bertolini, though, pops in. He's got a half a second advantage now. This is going to and fro, lap by lap, as every car crosses the line, Johnny Palmer.
Always seems to do this in the early stages, just whilst the session settles. In other championships, we have sometimes an hour-long qualifying session. This is 10 minutes. So the changes of provisional pole car more or less every lap. Bertolini hangs on to it at the moment, but only by virtue of the fact that there's a huge gap behind him and the next car, which is 66. That crosses the line now to improve. Johnny Cocker at the wheel, so Johnny's now 4th fastest behind Cairoli, Griffin and Bertolini.
But Matt Griffin is looking to improve, and both the Aston Martins currently 5th and 6th on quicker laps. Andrea Bertolini goes quicker than anybody in Sector 1 though, and again look to be on a quick time. Nicky Thiem improves just to 4th though. He does improve his time, but only his position by 1 place. Darren Turner's lap was a much quicker one, but the improvement by Cocker leaves Darren Turner still in 6th position. 6/10 of a second separate the field at the moment, although Andrea Bertolini, with the fastest 2nd sector of the session, 3.5 minutes to go, looks set to actually extend that advantage in provisional pole position, as Matteo Cairoli 0.3 of a second back from Bertolini, but Bertolini due across the line any moment now to complete his 4th flying lap. 1:28.297 is his current best. What can he do here?
Matt Griffin's had 2 of his 4 laps deleted now, so for car 55, lap 2 and lap 4 taken away from Matt because of track limits. The first was at turn 1, the second at turn 9, and now car 77, Matteo Cairoli, being penalised for running a touch wide in the exit of turn 1, so has a quick time taken from him.
Here comes Johnny Cocker. He's the only man on this current lap that looks set to make a major improvement. He's running 5th quickest at the moment. What can he do with this lap? He goes to 3rd, 1:28.713. So 0.4 of a second back from Bertolini, who did not improve despite having purple sectors in 1 and 2, and a ball sector 3 did not improve his best overall time. So just 2.5 minutes remain. Who can make the decisive move here?
And in fact, Bertolini's 5th lap's now going to be deleted as well, because he ran too wide on the exit of OMV, the first corner. So who is going to be next through? It's the 77 of Matteo Cairoli with a chance to improve, a 1:28.6, and no, he's a couple of seconds off that. Matt Griffin might have an opportunity. Yes, he does.
Go second.
Car 55, we were on board with, no, just behind him, and in fact there's a little bit of possibly some rain in the air on the windscreen. Yes, it looks like the cloud has broken towards the end of this session, so those times that have already been set are about to be locked in, I would think. Let's just have a check on the 77 car that ran wide out of Rint corner. Thankfully stayed away from those very large sausage curbs that are ready to bite you on the exit of Rint, turn 8, over the rise. I'm just trying to work out whether it is moisture in the air or whether that was a car that was in front of the 77 spitting fluid at the screen.
Johnny Cocker on an improved lap, looked to be a little bit wide in turn 9 there. Let's see what he can do about his time for the moment. He goes 1:28.630, fastest 3rd sector of the session. Does not improve where he is in the standings, takes a 10th out of his best efforts, and indeed is docked that time.
I'm going to correct that, actually. I don't think it is raining, despite the illusion of moisture on the screen of the 77 Porsche. That must have been some kind of fluid it's picked up from elsewhere. There's only now less than a minute to go, 50 seconds in fact, for Nicky Thiem for TF Sport, heading up to the first corner, so he's squeezed 1 extra lap out of it.
So does Darren Turner. Neither of those improved last time around. This will be their last flying lap.
And with 15 seconds to go, the 77 and the 55 cars will also get 1 more go at it. Matteo Cairoli for Proton, and for the 55 car of Matt Griffin, the Spirit of Race entry from Switzerland. So Nicky Thiem gets to Remus corner, that really is turn 2 for my money, and then heads towards turn 3, across the top shelf, if you like, of this track, down towards Rauch corner, in front of another large grandstand. The J&W Motorsport colours, yellow, black and red, and that 66 Ferrari, watched by Rob Smith, one of its drivers, driven though by Johnny Cocker, and Matt Griffin is quicker than anybody else through Sector 1 on his final chance to improve.
So Matt Griffin on an ultimate fastest 1st sector. Johnny Cocker could improve here.
Yeah. As long as he keeps it neat and tidy. I'm not sure how the track limits have been this time around, but it's a 4th place, and that's the best that Johnny Cocker's car is going to finish. Jody Fannin to the left and Rob Smith watching from the middle there.
Let's not forget Le Mans winner Rob Smith, because Rob, the only one of these 3 that actually did contest the Le Mans 24 Hours, that historic win for them. Andrea Bertolini, though, is responding with the fastest 1st sector of the session. Matt Griffin, I think, has lifted off.
Yeah, so he's going to go towards the pits. In the dark green Spirit of Race car, Nicky Team went across the line, but there was no improvement for the Dane, and the 77 car has maybe run a bit wide. Oh, this is why Matt Griffin doesn't carry on.
He knew.
Well, he's gone far too deep into turn 4. He's hammered those sausage curbs and a couple of wheels off onto the gravel as well. That was a rodeo ride for the 55 car. Andrea Bertolini still out there, though, in the 51 car, and he's up faster than anybody else through sector 1, but he's going to back off because he's already in pole position. What's the point in putting more mileage on the tyres and burning needless fuel? He obviously got the radio message there from the guys at Spirit of Race to say, there's no one else on track, Andrea, you might as well come back into pit lane, you have done the job.
1:28.297 then is what it took to claim pole position here. It's a Ferrari 1-2, then Matteo Caroli in the Proton Porsche, the third Ferrari is Johnny Cocker, the JMW car on the second row in GTE, then the two Aston Martins, but just over 0.6 of a second separate the six. Very close run thing indeed. And again, one or two of these drivers will be left wondering, what if I'd not managed to keep it on the island and not been pegged for those track limits? What could have happened here?
That's the second pole position of the year for the team Spirit of Race, but it was their other car that took pole position at, where are we, Monza. Home race for Ferrari, of course, and it was the 55 car that took pole position a couple of months ago. So that's the first pole for the 51 crew. And for Gianluca Roda, Giorgio Roda and Andrea Bertolini, who did the hard work. An all-Italian lineup in their Ferrari 488. These days powered by a 3.9 Ferrari engine, twin turbocharged, V8, of course, in alignment from the Swiss team Spirit of Race. Although when you go into the garage, you realise quite how many AF Corsa overalls are being worn. So, we will have a chance in a moment to have a chat to Andrea Bertolini to get his thoughts on that session as we prepare ourselves to go 10-minute qualifying for LMP3s, but not before we've headed down to the pit lane. And Charlie George, who's now with Andrea.
Yeah, I'm down here at Spirit of Race with Andrea Bertolini. Congratulations, Andrea, the first pole position of the year for the 51 Ferrari.
Yeah, finally. We worked very well this weekend, so until now. We work hard with Giorgio and Gianluca, with all the team, with Luca. We have a good car. You know, here you have to be really comfortable under braking, and our car is quite strong under braking. Here we work a lot for this. Also the car balance for the race, we are quite happy. It will be a long race like always, really tough like always. So we will see, but finally this weekend at the Red Bull Ring we changed something on the car compared the first two rounds, and now we are here again where we have to be. So happy with the team, happy with my mates, so we're looking forward.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, ciao.
Always chats and speaks very well with great authority and clearly knowledge of how to drive this wonderful racetrack, and also how to drive the Ferrari 488, which is still a relatively new beast. There is confirmation of the two Spirit of Race Ferraris then will start first and second on the grid for tomorrow's race. It's a 1 o'clock start, by the way, Central European time, taking us through till 5 o'clock. Just 0.179 of a second between the two prancing horses. And then behind those cars, Matteo Cairoli, another Italian, but at the wheel of a very German car, the Proton Competition Porsche, the 911 RSR. Another Ferrari, Johnny Cocker, driving the British-entered 66 JMW Motorsport car. And the two Astons might be a little bit disappointed with that, although qualifying is one thing and a 4-hour race something entirely different. TF Sport to start 5th in front of the 99 Beechdene AMR car, excuse me. So we now turn our attention to LMP3s, and this is another 10-minute session, set to be far, far busier though. We up the ante from 6 cars to 17 in this class, and those cars are now starting to form a queue at the end of the pit lane. 4 of them early takers. One of the Duquesne engineering cars is still sitting in the garage, the number 8 car of Vincent Beltoise and Lucas Legeret, and a new name for the championship. This is 25-year-old Douglas Lundberg, who is well, much of his success previously in karting, but his first foray into a real downforce car, this LMP3 Ligier from Duquesne.
Of course, Duquesne Engineering adding a Norma to their attack, or rather replacing one of the Ligiers, the number 7 car this weekend, and we believe the remainder of the season is a Ligier M30, one of 3 now in the championship, and that this new car has made substantial impact here. United Autosports, it's the LMP2 Ligier, winner at Silverstone, of course, 4th in LMP2 at Le Mans last month. We'll see that's just a short while.
And this the Panis Barthez Competition car, and a co-initiative from both Olivier Panis and former French international goalkeeper, former Manchester United goalkeeper Fabien Barthez, who is one of the drivers in the P2 car. But in the P3, it's Eric Debar, Simon Gachet and Theo Bean of the United States, the silver driver. Car number 3, heavily damaged earlier on today, is the Mark Patterson, Wayne Boyd and Christian England car from United Autosports. Now, Graham, I think you saw a bit more of that incident than I did.
So, certainly, well, we've not had a conclusive kind of report back, but the car came in with the front end, the nose completely gone, and fairly substantial damage. Also, at the same time, and evidence points to the fact that it might have been, you know, a front-to-rear incident with the Inter-Europol Ligier. Both cars spent a lot of time in the garage, but both are going to be out there for qualifying, so it just goes to show these are strong little cars, as well as being pretty quick. RLR's number 15 car there. I think we're going to see Morton Dons in that car for qualifying. It certainly isn't Alex Capardia's helmet. And they've really seen some good progress from the Bolton-based team, getting quicker and quicker certainly in the lead group now, the RLR M Sport team, but have spent, I'm afraid, a couple of these sessions with delays with both cars, both in the LMS and in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, having times in the gravel, I'm afraid. Let's wait and see what they can turn around. This car, though, Johnny, for me, has been something of a revelation this year. After last year really struggling for results, the Ultimate team, number 17 car with this fantastic pearlescent cherry red and white livery, have been right up there and battling.
Yeah, yet to win a race, but a 2nd place at Silverstone and a 3rd place at Monza mean they lead the championship to Ultimate in their number 17 car. A really nice livery, as Graham mentions, and they have this 5-point advantage over the 18 car from M Racing YMR. This is the one that we colloquially refer to as the Norwich City machine. The number 13 car is the Inter-Europol Competition car from Poland. Kuba Smichowski and Martin Hipper, who was another driver part of the 4 minutes of the Red Bull Ring last night on the toy car track. And thank you for his involvement with that, as we are now just 90 seconds away from the next bit of qualifying.
Already an LMP3 champion, Martin Hipper, by the way, the V2V Championship, where that same team campaigns a pair of Ligiers. They won last year. And they're another 2nd-year team in LMP3 that are showing major signs of improvements. Tyres going on. The number 17.
17 hasn't yet managed a pole position.
To open pit lane. Under 1 minute to open pit lane.
We have seen poles, though, for the number 9 AT Racing car, who are, technically speaking, an Austrian entry. So we should say that those guys are at their home race, despite it being 2 Belarusians. And in the number 9 car, the Dane, Mikkel Jensen, 22-year-old, joining Alexander Talkanitsa Jr. and Senior at AT Racing. They are the AT in AT Racing, but an Austrian outfit nevertheless.
30 seconds to go green, under 30 seconds to go green.
Sadly, we don't have any Austrian drivers here this weekend, but nevertheless, Austria's always been one of the stops in the modern day of the European Le Mans Series. And you can see the Norma from the Oregon team just poking its nose out of the garage. The Oregon were fastest in
10,
practice sessions
8,
yesterday.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. LMP3 qualifying session has started. Please alert your drivers to the absolute need of respecting track limits.
So Oregon, I think, with Dario Capitanio setting the best time in free practice 1. I had free practice 2 bright and early this morning. And
another a number of teams that have actually got plenty of experience here at the Red Bull Ring, not least last year, Johnny, with the Renault RSO1s, which are not dissimilar in very many ways to these cars. A little less downforce from the RSO1s, no longer, of course, a Renault-supported single make championship. But that is beginning to show, as I'm sure we'll see when we get into LMP2 qualifying with the high-class racing guys. Again, ex-Renault RS01 races. I'm very happy to be back at a circuit that both the drivers know well.
Already trying to get a bit of tyre temperature up then for the 2 and the 3 cars, and I'm still trying to work out whether it's raining on certain parts of the circuit. Generally, if it starts raining, this is the sort of place, because it's such a small footprint. Wheel off for the rear left.
That's the 360 racing car.
It is. That's the car of Terence Woodward, Ross Kaiser and Tony Wells, who's already been in qualifying action today as part of the Michelin Le Mans Cup.
Now, who's out in that car? That is Ross Kaiser.
Down into Rauch Corner, and the Wheel Parts Company with the car as Ross tries to turn right at turn 3, and clearly it spits him off into the gravel trap. It's scooping up an awful lot of gravel there into that rear valance and the legality panel area, and the tyre is still upright, funnily enough, sitting in the gravel bed. The focus of that incident, and 360 Racing may well be scratching their heads a little bit there. Do we put the wheel on right, or is that some kind of failure, they'll be thinking?
Well, only 2 opportunities for an explanation there, aren't they?
Yeah.
And will Ross get that car back and back into this qualifying session, hopefully with no damage?
It's going to be tricky.
Another wheel ready for the car.
The problem is that's barely halfway round the circuit, and it's clearly a very busy session with 16 other cars trying to go for quick times, and if Ross can get it back, it will need to be under white flags. A Hardy Marshall is already out into the gravel trap to recover the wheel that's parted company, and that will probably be returned to the team at some point for them to work out exactly what's gone wrong there. Maybe some kind of hub failure.
It's a red flag.
So
it's a red flag.
Now, I was about to say that will allow Ross Kaiser to come back, but being the cause of the red flag, he might not be permitted to take any further part in the session, sadly, for 360 Racing. So you get yourself all psyched up throughout the morning and through lunchtime for qualifying, the most important part of the team's day, and it's lasted barely a couple of minutes because of this incident, which has come as quite a shock, I think, for the team. Thankfully, Ross is absolutely fine. And it happened at a point where the car was decelerating anyway. There's a large gravel trap there, yeah.
In trouble as soon as he got on the brakes, wasn't he?
And the wheel goes bouncing straight on. I think it actually lands up in the tyre wall and amazingly stays upright. That's what you call a control tyre.
Oh dear,
I'm sorry. So Ross Kaiser's car will be recovered. Almost a baseball action there from the Marshall.
Valiant effort, I thought there.
Yes, absolutely right. And Ross will still be in conversation with the team, I would think.
And the wheel in the back of the rescue vehicle, making its way, I'm sure, either back to, probably back to the pit lane.
So the number 3 car from United Autosports, I'm not even sure whether the 3 joined the session. Did it? Yes, Wayne Boyd at the wheel.
It didn't. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Apologies, it was on an outlap.
And just came straight back in.
So we're going to end up with 7.5 minutes of qualifying.
Yes, because we should say, as the top of the screen would indicate, the clock has been stopped. If this has been free practice, then we tend to work our way through the session despite the red flag, and the clock doesn't stop. But with so little time available to the drivers, they're going to have 7 minutes and 37 seconds remaining. But that will include an extra outlap, of course, which is about another 2.5 minutes.
So the intervention vehicle now with Ross Kaiser's number 6 car. They've got the errant item in the rear of the car. Wheel meet again.
That was equal to mine, I think, in terms of dreadful jokes. We'll maybe knock those on the head from this point on, eh? And Ross is going to clamber out of the car, a forlorn figure,
He's
sadly.
not going to be very happy, is he?
No.
No.
And nothing he could do about it, of course.
The session won't restart till that car is in a position of safety. That might take a little bit of doing with just 3 wheels on his wagon. Yeah,
Ross is the silver driver, joined by 2 bronzes, so it makes sense that Ross qualifies the car, showing that little bit more pace. He's 34, joined by Terence Woodward and Tony Wells, who I've mentioned is on double duty, as is Alex Capadia this weekend, doing both the Michelin Le Mans Cup and the European Le Mans Series. And both drivers in the number 4 car, the Cool Racing by GPC Ligier, Alessandro Khani and Iraj Alexander, doing both races this weekend too. So It shouldn't be too long before that car is recovered to a safe position, and 7.5 minutes is all that the teams will have. We didn't have any quick laps during that, did we?
No, nobody completed a flying lap. We've got the flatbed almost in place now, and they'll just work out how the Tetris of traffic here is going to sort this. It won't be long before we've got that car in a position of safety.
That's an interesting way to prevent the number 3 car from rolling back, wedging a half-drunk bottle of water behind the rear right wheel, but it seems to be working. A makeshift stop block.
Sponsorship opportunity there, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. There are many, many water companies that would take that up, I'm sure.
Mountain Spring. Just looking there. It would be very good at stopping things rolling down a mountain.
That's true.
Into a spring.
And then springing into action when we go green again. Yeah.
So it is Wayne Boyd at the front of the queue. Now, he will have been there before the red flag, because my recollection is you're not permitted to queue at pit out at a red flag.
Ah, OK.
So that was a change middle of last season.
There's a long line of cars there, but this is effectively a stopped session, so...
Now they're going to stop there because actually that's where it levels out.
Fine, so you can't, as long as it's on a flat section of pit lane, then there's no problem. Interesting.
Opportunity there to see the lift bar in action. Lifting points at the top of it, all of these cars. And the rescue crews at each track we visit with the European Le Mans Series and the FIWC practice with each different car to lift the lifting points.
There's a point on offer, by the way, in this session for whichever LMP3 car manages to take pole. Already poles for 80 Racing, as I mentioned, and the number 3 United Autosports car. If the 3 crew could repeat that, they'd actually squeeze into second position in the championship, because there are 2 teams level on 28 points. Second and third currently, the M Racing YMR car number 18. That's the blue Ivan Muller Racing machine, and then the number 3 Flexbox sponsored United Autosports Ligier. Ross Kaiser returning to the pits in not the way he had expected, on the back of a scooter as his number 6 car, otherwise undamaged, but there'll be a lot of gravel to be raked out of the back of that number 6 Ligier once it gets back to the paddock.
Yeah, rather less than Nissan V8 power on offer there. The session will restart in just 20 seconds time, with 7.5 minutes left on the clock, so it's going to be pretty fast and furious at this point. They've lost.
Seconds. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Session has been resumed. Session has been resumed.
And the roar of the engines would indicate that we're already then back in action here at Red Bull Ring, Spielberg, for round 3 of the European Le Mans Series. Race day tomorrow, 1 o'clock start local time through till 5 p.m. But qualifying to be done first of all. We already know who's going to be on pole in the LMGTE element of the race. It's Andrea Bertolini's number 51 Spirit of Race Ferrari. But who's going to get bragging rights in LMP3 and in LMP2? There are now 16 cars in this class that can go for pole position. We hope that Ross Kaiser's 360 racing car will be permitted to start, even though it won't have qualified. They may have to go and apply to the stewards, the clerk of the course, to get special dispensation for that.
Just waiting for one car, the number 17, the Ultimate racing car of... No, is that Mathieu Lehay? I think he probably is. But I can tell you who's aboard these cars as they make their latest bid to go onto a flying lap. The number 2 United Autosports car of Sean Rahal for qualifying. Wayne Boyd is in this car, the number 3. Gerard Alexander is in the number 4 car. Number 5 was Jürgen Krebs. Ross Kaiser, we know, is in trouble there. David Drew is in the number 7, the Norma from Decane Engineering. So Beltoise in the number 8, the car from Decane Engineering, the Ligier though this time. Number 9, Bill Janssen. Dario Capitano in the number 10. That is the yellow-coloured Oregon team, Norma. Giorgio Mondini in the number 11 Euro International car. Ricky Capo in the 12. Martin Hipper is in the 13 Euro International, sorry, the Inter-Europol car. Morten Dons, as we said earlier, in the 15 Orelar M Sport car. Simon Gachet is on qualifying duty for Panes Barthez in the 16. Lehay is now on track for Ultimates. Cugno in the number 18 car from M Racing YMR. There, Ligier and Jan Erlacher.
Erlacher,
yeah. Fresh from, you were telling me earlier this weekend, his maiden victory in the World Touring Car Championship.
Yeah, never been on the podium previously in the 2017 World Touring Car Championship, but they went to Argentina last weekend, and Jan Erlacher managing to get his first victory of the year, and indeed of his whole career. He didn't win on the road. Tom Chilton was up ahead, but Tom was given a 5-second penalty, which meant that Erlacher, who had to do an awful lot of defending throughout that drive, got his first win. So a whistle-stop tour from Argentina to Austria, and I mean Erlacher's car has taken victory already this year, but without Jan as part of the team.
Absolutely.
So he's got a bit of catching up to do, but he's a very, very quick driver and a promising one for the future.
He's got a chance of earning a point for the team here. He's on qualifying duty for the number 19 M Racing YMR. There, Norma. And we're beginning now. Wayne Boyd puts in the first qualifying time of the session. It's a 1:27.330. That's good enough to edge out by a quarter of a second teammate Sean Rahal, Simon Gachet, and then David Drew, the Norma number 7, to the top with a 1:26.286. So wide variety of times here. Simon Gachet second, Dario Capitanio third. 2 Normas in the top 3 in the early running here. And just 4 minutes remain. This is going to be frantic stuff.
Norma already with a pole position to the... No, beg your pardon, they're not, because they were pipped to the post. Remind myself, after the Michelin Le Mans Cup, it looked very much like Norma were going to have pole position. They'll start from the front row in today's Michelin Le Mans Cup race. Can it be Norma on pole position in the LMP3 part of the ELMS, though? David Drew hanging on at the moment, but there are several other P3s that haven't yet come through on a flying lap, so we'll see what David Alexander can do, and who else?
Mikkel Jensen goes up into second, looked pretty wide for my taste through turn 9 and again through 10. So Mikkel Jensen at the moment second quickest, about 0.3 of a second down on David Drew. So it's Norma, Ligier, Norma at the moment.
And Mathieu Lehay has been through to go 9th fastest in the championship leading Ultimate car, number 17. So the 18 car, meanwhile, is coming through the chicane at first Alpine corner, over the rise, underneath that advertising bridge, and down towards Rint, which is a very fast right-hander indeed. The 18 car driven by the Alexandre Quano, the Frenchman, as we've got another change towards the top of the times, Graham.
Well, lots of changes. It's a quicker time for the provisional pole sitting number 7 Norma, David Drew, 1:26.118. 4 tenths now clear of Jensen, who's kept that lap. Sean Rahal, though, I think is going to lose his lap. It's put in 3rd for United Autosports. Giorgio Mondini for the moment goes 4th. Cugno goes 5th. Wayne Boyd 6th. But it's changing by the moment. Dario Capitanio, though, is on a flyer right now. Fastest first sector of the session so far. And 14 of the 17 LMP3s at the moment ahead of the GTE field.
But it's Mikkel Jensen to the top of the times for AT Racing, a 1:26.044, so that drops the Norma to second position, as Capitanio in this Oregon car, the pink, yellow and green colours of the Oregon team from Italy, could be about to pip another car to pole position then. How many different names can we have at the top of the times through this curtailed session? Yes, we'll have the full 10 minutes, but of course we've had to have 2 doses of an outlap for these teams, and time well and truly cut short for everyone involved. The Norma from Oregon then, heading through Rint corner, down the hill. It's got the RLR Ligier just ahead of it, and a car in pursuit as well, as Dario Capitanio is expected across the line very shortly. He goes 4th with David Drew back to the top of the times, and Wayne Boyd slotting into second position in the number 3 United Autosports car.
And less than 1/10 of a second back. We've already had David Drew, and now all of a sudden Erlacher goes to the top. 1:25.978, 2 tenths up.
There he is
in the Y Racing by YMR Norma. So Norma's 1-2 all of a sudden. 2/10 of a second between the two. Erlacher, David Drew, Wayne Boyd, Sean Rahal. Mikkel Jensen now puts a Ligier to the top. That's the number 9 AT Racing car. 1:25.854. Tiny, tiny gaps here. The top, what is it, 11 cars within a single second. And there are thousands between some of those. Still quick sector times coming in for a number of these guys. David Drew does the fastest first sector. Wayne Boyd does the fastest second sector. That's pipped by David Drew. David Drew at the moment on a lap that looks set to grab pole back for him. He's 0.3 of a second back from Mikkel Jensen's time.
And just coming into Rint corner now is David Drew in the number 7 Duquesne Engineering car. So what can he do as the names at the top of the screen seem to flash to different ones virtually every single car and the time a car exits the final corner? What's David Drew done? He's gone back to pole.
Yeah, 1:25.657. That's 0.2 up this time rather than the 0.2 down. Wayne Boyd is up into third. Briefly took second with his best effort there, just 1:26.0 for him. So 1:25.6 for Drew.
The checkered flag is out.
Absolutely. Jensen goes second. Erlaché with as the checkered flag comes out, goes third.
Here comes Mikkel Jensen, though, as the Jensen coming through the final corner in the black and orange car at their home race. Remember, AT Racing, possibly a track limits issue, though, out of the final corner, and he goes to pole position provisionally. Mikkel Jensen, a 1:25.546 for the AT Racing crew, and that is then the last opportunity for Mikkel Jensen, waiting for any information about the number 9 car and track limits coming up, but there's none appearing just yet. David Drew is on a fast one, and other drivers that have squeezed an extra lap out of the session. Wayne Boyd in number 3.
Not going to improve. He's not going to improve, Boyd.
Simon Gachet, who has gone better through the... as David Drew now takes pole position.
Wow.
So a 1:25.657 for David Drew in the number 7 car for Duquesne Engineering. And
that was the track limits to the number 9.
That's okay. That's what's happened, because Drew isn't even across the line yet, although he might have an opportunity
I think he might
to improve, because he's up in the middle sector. So Jensen had that time taken from him because of track limits, and there is no improvement for David Drew and Duquesne Engineering, but it matters not, because the 7 car already had a good enough time to give it pole position by 0.197 of a second.
So Norma to pole position. Duquesne Engineering with their debut with their new M30. Chassis number 10, by the way. The final one of the first production batch of this new Norma LMP3 car. Mikkel Jensen makes it a Norma and a Ligier on the front row for LMP3 with the AT Racing team. As you say, Johnny, just under 0.2 of a second back, and a further 0.2 back to Jan Erlaché. It's another Norma Ligier row in row 2 with Erlaché and Wayne Boyd in the number 3 United Autosports car. But a number of these cars suffering with track limits, costing them their quicker time in that session.
Yeah, and Mikkel Jensen, I'm sure, will be kicking himself with that very slight error coming out of Red Bull Mobile corner, the final right-hander on the circuit. 22-year-old Mikkel Jensen having a provisional pole time taken from him. The number 9 car slipping to second fastest, therefore, and the Norma, the M30, which is new at Duquesne Engineering, and they are the first team to, part-way through the season, switch chassis from a Ligier to a Norma. We've had Normas in the championship from the start of the year, but Duquesne, I'm sure, will be thinking that was the right decision, at least for those guys.
Absolutely right. 15 of the 17 LMP3 cars qualifying ahead of the GTE pack. Ross Kaiser we saw in trouble at the start of that session with a lost wheel, bringing out that red flag, costing us the first 2 or 3 minutes of the session. And Jürgen Krebs in the number 5 car, failing to set a time quicker than the GTE pack, but we'll have 15 LMP3s ahead of the GTEs. We know from last year here, Johnny, that in racing conditions they're pretty well matched, the GTE and the LMP3 cars. They're a little quicker on those ultimate lap times, but remember, Pro-Am classes, both of these, in the hands of the AM drivers. I think we're going to see some well, very mixed traffic out there on the Red Bull Ring tomorrow in this 4-hour race.
And assuming 360 Racing will be given the chance to start the race, they'll be from the back, from 36th position, unless we have dramas for any of the LMP2s, of course. There is confirmation. No, not quite, because all of those times were not classified. Now they are. 1:25.657 there, the pole position time for Duquesne Engineering, and for their driver David Drew, Nicola Schatz and Antonin Borger are the other two drivers for the Norma number 7. That car will start alongside the best of the Ligiers, the AT racing car of Mikkel Jensen, Alexander Taukenitzer Jr. and Taukenitzer Senior. Then it'll be another Norma, as Graham mentioned, to start from 3rd position. Jan Erlechet doing the qualifying, Erwin Creed, his co-driver. So those two are in the all-carbon, the car that hasn't even been wrapped but does look really good in the bare carbon livery, the M Racing YMR Norma. 4th position for the United Autosports Ligier of Mark Patterson, Wayne Boyd and Christian England. And then the Panis Barthès Competition Ligier of Eric Debar, Simon Gachet and Theo Beam will start ahead of Sean Rahal, who was doing the qualifying, and his co-driver John Falb. And Charlie George working hard down the pit lane to try and get some reaction from Duquesne Engineering, and hopefully we'll grab a word with David Drew, the Swiss, to find out what he thinks of that hard work. Again, it was a very last-minute thing. There was some shuffling of the order. Mikkel Jensen had his time removed, and David Drew takes pole position for the 3rd round of the year. Here he is.
Yeah, I'm here with David. You're very happy with that, aren't you? Pole position for Duquesne Engineering.
Yeah, it's the first one in the EMS, so it's a big one, and I couldn't be more happy, you know.
And tell us about this circuit. Is this a good one for you?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Do you like this circuit?
Yeah, it's my favorite track, in fact. And yeah, last year I was close to the pole and we didn't get it, so I'm really happy to get it today.
Well done, great work.
Thank you.
And again, one of those sessions that we had so many different names at the top of the screen at any one point during that 10 minutes. I'll need a good half an hour later on tonight to work out exactly what happened.
I could have just read out the entry list really quickly, and that would have been anything wiser, but it was like that at moments, and in fact it changed just as quickly with laps being deleted as it did with the laps coming. There's the Red Bull sculpture, fabulous part of this fabulous circuit and this fabulous place.
Yeah, leaping maybe with wings, you could say, on the halfway up the side of the hill here. The mountain is in the background. It feels like this circuit really does gain a lot of altitude before you look behind you and think quite how high the scenery then goes to the snow-capped mountains in the distance. But it's a fabulous place to go motor racing, and if you pick your spot right as far as the grandstand seating is concerned, you can basically see the whole circuit, apart from maybe the run into turn 8 at Rint Corner, which does disappear behind the trees. But otherwise, it's all nicely assembled in this almost natural amphitheatre, the side of a mountain with the grandstands at the bottom looking up towards it. And there's also very nice places to grab a coffee or a beer at the top of the hill and look down into the valley, down to the old Grand Prix track, or the venue for the Grand Prix track at Zeltweg, which is also an active airfield, an airport. And they used to run the Formula One cars of yesteryear around there. Fairly simple circuit in an L shape before it was then moved to the Österreichring. In its initial guise, a very, very rapid circuit. Still pretty quick now, but with many more hard stops than the original 1969 lineup. LMP2 time. The 10 minutes hasn't yet appeared on the timing screen, though. And final preparations being made for a category that has mixed tyres in it. We should remind everyone as well. Dunlop and Michelin represented in the LMP2s, and there is a new team represented as well.
We are going green in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pit exit is green. Please advise your drivers to respect track limits. We will delete any lap we see or that is reported to us by a judge of facts. Any lap with a track infringement at T9 or T1 will be deleted if the judge of fact reports or if we see it ourselves.
There's no doubt about Eduardo Freitas' message there, and there's also precedent from both the LMGTEs and the LMP3s already in this session.
Well, it's out on track. We're going to see a lap record here at LMP2, of course. It's the first time we've seen these new 2017 much quicker LMP2 cars out in qualifying trim here for the European Le Mans Series. And first out on the track is the championship leader. It's in the hands of Leo Russell, who's been given qualifying duties here. It's good to see. And this is a car with a replacement driver this weekend, the 22G drive by Dragon Speed car. And that is because Ryo Hirakawa is on Super GT duty here. I think he will be as well for Paul Ricard. And they've delved into their big, long phone book of young talent and found the name of Nick Manassian, their sporting director and nominated pro reserve driver, Nick. So Nick will be out in the 4 hours of the Red Bull Ring tomorrow, but great to see him back in the saddle. But being given no peace on this opening lap, this warm-up lap, by, I think that is the high-class racing car, isn't it?
The Dallara, yes, it may well be. The blue and white car looks about right behind it. So across the line goes the 49 car, you're quite right.
Right, let's just go through who's going to be out in this session. It's Nicolas Lapierre in the other Dragon Speed car, the white and blue car. Nicolas Lapierre in the 21, Leo Russell we've already mentioned in the 22. The Panis Barthez car, the red and black Ligier, will be in Nat Berton's hands. 25, which is Algarve Pro, their Ligier, Andrea Pizzitola. We've got a new addition to the order. The SMP Racing Dallara joins the championship after debuting at Le Mans. It'll be Richiev in that car. The two drivers from the SMP Racing team's Formula V8 3.5 efforts are here for this one. Olivier Pla rejoins the EDEC Sport team. Jan Lammers will be in the Racing Team Netherlands Dallara. Philippe Albuquerque, fresh from his Scalextric efforts in the 32 United Ligier. Nigel Moore will be in the number 34 Tockwith Ligier, that car coming fresh from a gearbox change this morning. Enzo Gilbert in the 39 Graf Orica. Gustavo Jackermann is a new addition to the number 40 squad in Graf Racing, and a new colour scheme for that team will be more or less identical to the sister 39 car. Andrea Balicki is in the 47 Settelar Veloba Corsa Dallara, and Anders Fjordback it is in the number 49 Dallara, currently tracking the rear end of this car, the 22 G-Drive racing car. And Leo Russell goes through. It's a 1:20.027 for Leo. That the quickest time of the session so far, with just 3 cars having put in a flyer right now, Johnny.
And the car at turn 1 is the number 23 entry from Panis Barthez Competition. Fabien Barthez, Tim Bourret and Nathaniel Bertrand, who's doing the qualifying. So Nathaniel currently second fastest, a 1:20.191 from the Frenchman, but it is Leo Russell for G-Drive Racing, the 21-year-old silver graded driver who used to race with Pegasus and their Morgan, and then looked a real talent in those days, and has now found a drive at G-Drive Racing, joining Nicolas Manassian and Memo Rojas.
And already a couple of cars stumbling with track limits, including Anders Fjordback in that 49 high-class racing car. Had done a time that was good enough at that point for second. That time by Leo Russell, 1:20.027, comprehensively blown away by a 1:18.875 from teammate Nicolas Lapierre. It's a Dragon Speed 1-2 at present. There's Elton Julian, team principal, doesn't look happy yet. He will be if it stays that way. And Lapierre going quicker again, but so is Leo Russell. Leo Russell is certainly going to improve on this lap time. It's a 1:18.875 from Lapierre. Ahead goes Leo Russell, a 1:18.520. Now, he would have gone ahead either way, but Lapierre has lost that lap to track limits.
Again, it strikes in LMP2. We've seen it in the other categories as well. So everyone had been told by Eduardo Freitas to neaten up their lines out of turn 9 and out of turn 1. It's generally not cutting the corner, but it's carrying more speed than the track limits allow. Oh, and an incident actually at the top of the hill at Remus Corner. Now, is that one of the United Autosports cars?
It's the only one, it's the 32 car.
Interesting. Couldn't quite tell for sure, but it certainly looked to be in the livery of United Autosports, the Anglo-American team.
Keep an eye on the time. That's Philippe Albuquerque, if that's correct.
He had 1 or 2 offs in the Scalextric race yesterday at Remus Corner, but takes a bit more to throw one of these P2 cars off, because they carry an awful lot of downforce, although at that point of the circuit, as you're accelerating out of Remus, you're slightly more reliant on the mechanical grip. Here comes the G-Drive car, looking very menacing indeed, heading down the hill and through Red Bull Mobile Corner with Leo Russell up in the first sector. Here is a chance to improve, but he doesn't, but it's Nicolas Lapierre now lighting up the timing screen. He's quickest, a 1:18.4, Graham.
But it's only 47 thousandths of a second between the two Dragon Speed cars. Lapierre from Russell, both in the 118s. Then it's Radjev in the S&P Dallara, quickest of the non-Oricas, 1.5 seconds down in the 27 car. But the debut for this car, and these two guys had not driven this car before this weekend, so that's impressive stuff from them early on. Roussel is going quicker. He's got the quickest first sector time. He's hunting down his more experienced, more storied teammates. He wants, in the championship winning leading car, the 22 car, to have the bragging rights in the Dragon Speed garage. Enzo Gipa makes it an Orica 1-2-3 in the 39 Graf car. He's in the 119s, but still over a second back from the charging Dragon Speed pair.
Yeah, just a word about Matevos Isakian and Yegor Rudchev. 19 and 21 years old respectively, 2 silvers because they've done the Formula V8 3.5 series this year, again for the SMP crew, and one, if not both drivers, coached by Warren Hughes, a man with an awful lot of, well, general motorsport experience, but certainly in one of these LMP2 cars. And they just made the decision that it would be great to get some P2 experience early on in their careers. But as you say, never driven a P2 car even before free practice 1 yesterday.
Leo Roussel goes to the top. 5 thousandths per second is the gap. It's a 1:18.435 from a 1:18.440 to 5 thousandths of a second, the difference between the two team cars. They look very different, the bright orange and grey of the G-Drive Racing backed Dragon Speed 22 championship leaders, and the 21 car of Nico Lapierre. Up into third, meanwhile, goes the Dallara Felipe Albuquerque, the United Autosports 32, but he is 8 tenths of a second down on the mark set by both of those two Dragon Speed cars. Enzo Gipa, though, just pips that. He's now quarter of a second back, 22 from 21 and now 39 with an Orica 1-2-3. Then the first of the Ligiers, then the first of the Dallaras, then the number 40 Orica of Gustavo Jacquemin.
I have to say, I'd seen the 39 car down in 13th position with Enzo Guibert at the wheel and thought surely he'll be appearing at the pointy end very, very shortly. With that, he popped up into 3rd position. Philippe Albuquerque 4th, 5th position for Yegor Rudchev, and 6th fastest for Gustavo Jacquemin into the European Le Mans Series for the first time this year. And the 40 car, driven by the Colombian, another Orica from Graf Racing, is running now 6th fastest.
Can anybody do anything about the Dragon Speed pair? They have bossed this session so far. There's just over a minute remaining, so at most 2 flying laps for anybody that's out there, and they all still are out there, all 13 cars.
Should just make the point that the G-Drive racing car is G-Drive for sponsorship reasons, but it's run out of the Dragon Speed awning, so they're in exactly the same garage next door to one another. And Nicolas Lapierre drives the proper Dragon Speed car, if you like, in the Dragon Speed colours, the white with the blue and white stars. And then the G-Drive car currently has pole position, courtesy of young Leo Roussel.
Nat Berton improves to 5th position. He knocks the SMP racing car down a further place to 6th. So the 23 Panis Barthez car of the Ligier, 1:19.6.
Albuquerque up to 4th fastest. Nathaniel Berton drops to 5th. Yegor Rudchev for SMP Racing still there in 6th position, with more laps potentially going to be deleted. The car 21, its last lap has been taken away, so Nicolas Lapierre staying 2nd fastest, but lap 4's just been deleted, as has the 5th lap for car 47, which is the Setalovi-Lorber Corsa car of Andrea Bellicchi. Half a minute to go, that's all. And the jumbo car, the Racing Team Nederland machine, driven by Jan Lammers, the 29 car, is just exiting turn 1. That car currently 12th fastest. Jan's done a 1:20.6. But what else are we set for in terms of improvement? Nigel Moore up as far as it's the car's best times for Tockwith Motorsport. They've had was it a gearbox change this morning?
Gearbox change this morning. So they've been lacking some track time this morning. So any results he can get out of qualifying will be very welcome indeed for that team. Olivier Pla improved last time around, but can do no better than 8th in the Index Sport 28. Andre Pizzatello, after losing a couple of laps to track limits, is in 9th. First across the line is Nigel Moore. There's no improvement there from the number 34 car. They will do no better than 10th.
And also receiving the checkered flag, the Villorba Corsa car of Andrea Bellicchi, as a new time pops up into third position. Philippe Albuquerque in the 32 United Autosports Ligier. We were wondering whether that car was off track in the early part of the session. Still, it's going to offer quite a bit of pace, though, because the Portuguese has stuck that car, we think, on the second row, alongside Nathanael Berton in the 23 car for Panes Bartis Competition. Other improvements, Pizzitola for Algarve Pro, the 25 car has just improved to go 8th. But otherwise, Leo Roussel has crossed the line. No change in the time there. Nicolas Lapierre across the line as well. So that, I reckon, more or less confirms a double 1-2 for the Dragon Speed team. But for G-Drive Racing, a pole position. And just need to check the notes to see whether we've had that happen before.
No,
we haven't.
That's the first this year. That is an excellent result for young Leo Roussel. He will be absolutely delighted with that, and I've no doubt whatsoever that'll be welcomed by the whole team, including, you know, his teammates in the 21. Leo, for what was not part of the effort for the Mans, of course, it's a race where you've got to take your commercial opportunities, but back in the European Le Mans Series with the team for the remainder of the season, and they will be utterly delighted. Promise, form, results.
Quite right too, and the G-Drive car sits next to the Dragon Speed 21 car in the garage, and they're going to be near neighbours on the grid for tomorrow's race as well. Locking out the front row, the Dragon Speed run cars, G-Drive from Dragon Speed proper.
And extending the championship lead for that crew to 11 points with that point. And there you go, the Memo Rojas, Elton Julian there in the middle of the shot. Race engineers, a big part of this effort as well. And they'll be waiting to greet young driver when he gets back into pit lane. But they're justifiably delighted with that result.
The other thing to happen, sadly, for the 39 crew, the Graf Racing, Enzo Guibert's really good time was taken from him. So that car will start from 13th position.
Dear.
And Guibert had at one point gone third with a time, but it was removed because of track limits. He says, checking the notes further down the screen. Has to be, doesn't it? Although I can't see the 39 car listed. But Enzo Guibert, former pole position man this year, that was at Monza. And the other pole position coming from the Dragon Speed crew, number 21. So both the 21 and the 22 cars now have had a pole position this season.
Guibert must have had more than one lap taken away. He had 6 flying laps in that session, and he ends the session 6 seconds off. Now, more than once, he was up in the top 4.
OK. He certainly left it very, very late to go third.
I'm not quite sure what's happened there, but that's a very odd thing, because generally speaking, we were catching up with those results quite quickly, certainly within a given flying lap.
Yep.
Unless there's been a late report, and they've taken that into account. But it'd be interesting to find out post-session what happened to the 39, but it's not going to affect what happens with pole position. That has gone the way of the 22 G-Drive by Dragon Speed car, and it's gone the way of a very young man indeed. That's what that means to Memo Rojas. That's what that means to Leo Roussel.
Yeah, Leo, 21 years old, racing with Memo, who's 35, and Nicolas Menassian, a very sprightly 44 years old.
Is he?
I make him. Yeah, who'd have thought it? But Menassian, still a platinum driver, of course. Rojas, the gold. But Leo Roussel, given the qualifying duties, as I say, only the silver. He's a silver-graded driver, and he's going to be a real star of the future. And this is the next step on that ladder, on that trajectory. Comes from a great family as well, and the young Frenchman congratulated by all at Dragon Speed. He almost can't believe it. But you are there on merit, my man, and 0.005 of a second say that you are quicker than Nicolas Lapierre. He can't believe it. We're seeing pictures just off the main feed, and just so surprised, but nevertheless very, very happy to be starting from pole position tomorrow afternoon.
Super young man, Leo Roussel. Admired his speed while watching it. This season we have more time to spend a little bit of time with Leo. And that is, I think, right here, right now, the result of his life thus far. It won't be the last. It will not be the last.
And we also know that he is a great starter, because because there were times in the past when the Pegasus Morgan has been on the front couple of rows, maybe starting from 4th place. And I remember a start at Ricard, probably year before last, where Roussel, Nicola Menassian as well, says, do you know what, I don't think I could have done any better than that.
I was much quicker than you were when I was 25 years younger.
Yeah. You just wait till you get to my age, matey boy.
It's a lot harder. He's saying, yep, that's that. Yeah,
it's downhill from here.
I'd have turned that button and you'd have got an extra 10th, Nicholas was saying there.
And Leo Roussel's serious face on all of a sudden, but I think his grin will re-emerge very, very shortly. But really gracious of the top, the higher graded drivers, the platinum Nicola Menassian and the gold Memo Rojas, to allow Leo to do qualifying. As we look back on some highlights from earlier on in the session, congratulations again to Spirit of Race for taking the LMGTE pole position. That was Andrea Bertolini doing the honours in the 51 car, and David Drew for Duquesne Engineering and their number 7 car getting pole position in LMP3. But the man of the moment in P2 is Leo Roussel, now down in the garage with Charlie George.
Well, Leo, that was a real battle for pole position with your sister car, but you did it. You beat Nicolas Lapierre to pole. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's a dream for me. The team did a great job all the week, and it's. I don't say the word for describe this, but yeah, the team work well, the drivers work well, the sister cars work again well. But it's a great fight with Nico. Yeah, but it's a good opportunity for win the race.
Best of luck, thank you.
Thank you.
And the next question we need to ask is who's going to be starting those cars tomorrow afternoon? A start grid will be issued later on today. Well done to G-Drive, well done to Dragon Speed. My thanks to Graham Goodwin. Hope you've enjoyed it. From Johnny Palmer, it's goodbye from the ELMS.